So here's the bike. I just did the paint this year. It's a one-step self-etching primer that I get at Lordco. So you get a scratch, just sand that spot, mask off anything that you don't want to get paint on, spray it, and it'll blend. It's awesome stuff. I've used it in the past. It doesn't fade, it doesn't get rock chips. It's pretty awesome. So that was why I chose that. Marker lights are currently, they're like black light color. Doesn't really show properly in camera. I haven't really gotten too much trouble about them. They're not legal, but they're extremely easy to change back to clear bulbs if you want to. So it doesn't leak at all. The exhaust is very short and it's very loud. You can flip this around and extend these extensions even farther. It's about 9 inches over right now. I wouldn't recommend going any longer because they're not as strong as an aftermarket swing arm. They just unbolt and you can take them off and go back to stock. The license plate mount isn't the prettiest. It works, it has a light. I had a curved one and I got pulled over the first day I had it on. It was vertical and it was curved, which are both no-nos. So that should be fine now. Last year I switched to metal chain guard instead of the stock plastic one. It has an adjustable kickstand, which isn't fun to adjust. You have to remove the spring. Lowering links. This is 4 under. Next hole's 2 under. That's stock. It has been laid down. There's one little tiny mark right here on the shifter, and then I thought there was a scuff on this, but I can't seem to find it on the frame slider. It's not visible. I think that's when the owner painted it. It was originally red and he painted it Cowie black that had like a green flake in it, but it was starting to chip. That's why I painted it. So those marker lights are not your signal lights, they're separate. It's got the double bubble tinted windscreen. When you start it, your temperature gauge is going to show nothing. You want to wait until it's showing 40 degrees is where it starts to register. Then your idle will kick down. Right now it's adding a ton of fuel. And you don't want to ride like that. You want to wait. I'm going to wait until it's warm and then crack the throttle for you. So it's got 1-inch bar risers. The pegs are 1 inch lower. This is your gas tank here. This bike has a monocoque frame, so it's all one solid piece of aluminum. The frame is your air box, and then you have 2 tubes that come forward into your ram air, and that ram air adds anywhere from 10 to 15 horsepower. High beams are ridiculously bright, even the low beams you can see forever on this thing. So now it would be good to ride. And it sounds pretty angry. The mirrors don't move at all, even at high speed. These are awesome mirrors. Don't really know what else to say. The rear cowl I ordered this winter because I think it looks 10 times better and I never have a passenger. That's why I removed the passenger pegs. To remove that, there's a keyhole right there, and then the whole seat pops off, and then it's just 4 little bolts underneath the cover, and then your passenger seat's underneath. I wouldn't recommend passengers with the swing arm extensions. I'm 360 pounds and they've been more than strong enough for me, but putting another passenger on the back is going to put strain on the arms as well as the suspension, because the suspension takes more strain than with the longer arm. I've got the rear shock set as tight as it'll go right now. It's really stiff. I had it up on 97C heading from West Kelowna out towards Merritt, and I got it up to 300, and I like the way the suspension's set, but if you're 100 pounds lighter, you might want to loosen it up a little. I thought about getting you can get the glass covers that light up. They're about 150 bucks. I didn't end up doing it. Brakes are good. It's a hell of a bike. I'm gonna miss it, but can't keep it. I don't really know what else to say. If you're not into crazy high speeds, you could go with a bigger sprocket on the back and smaller on the front. It'll give you a lot more torque, and you're still gonna have a high speed of at least 300. So that would probably be more than enough. It's longer than a normal crotch rocket and a lot bigger and wider. It's a very wide bike. It doesn't feel big when you're riding it and cornering, but it is quite large, which is nice for me. I'm 6'7", and I just touch my elbows to my knees when I'm in full tuck, laying right over the tank, so it'll fit anybody. And I don't really know what else to say. These have three bolts, and then this cover comes off, and then you can get at your lights if you did want to change that. All the fluids are new. Chain was done this winter. Sprockets were done last year by the previous owner. They still look like new. The teeth don't show anywhere. Rotors are good. I did the rear pads this year. Previous owner did the front pads last year. It stops on a dime. It crushes your nuts when you hit those front brakes. These things have better brakes than the Hayabusas, so you want good brakes if you got a bike that goes that fast. What else can I say? The air cleaner, you take this cover off and it slides out of the frame. It's a K&N. I've cleaned it this year, so it's good. If you do decide to shorten back to stock length, it's kind of hard to see on this side. The slider piece inside of the arm here that the axle's in is what I bolted the license plate mount to. So you might have to shave a tiny bit off so that it'll slide in here instead of inside of the swing arm. Other than that, it should just be removing the axle, bolting it on there instead. I thought about removing the swing arm and trying it without to see what the difference would be with cornering, but I don't really want to shorten my chain. Chains aren't cheap, and I think it would be too hard to keep the front wheel down, and I have a hard time controlling myself on this thing. First gear's like 140, second gear's 220, third gear is I think around 280, and then I pretty much only use top of second gear, and sometimes like half a third when I'm hammering on it. I don't have the balls to see what this bike can do. I've had it up to about 300. I'm not sure the exact top speed I've gone. At those speeds, I'm not really looking at the speedo. After I've let off and took a second to compose myself, I've looked down and I've actually seen 280 on the speedo, and I know I was going a fair bit faster than that. So somewhere around 300 is what I've done, and it was still pulling hard with my huge ass on the bike. I have a friend who used to ride professionally. He's been in videos and stuff. I let him take it for a ride. He's a scrawny little guy. He couldn't even get traction. He said it was too crazy. I get good traction with my weight. You should get pretty good traction. You're still probably going to go through 2 rear tires in a season. As you can see, I have had this bike cornering pretty good. It's got a little bit of center wear, which is normal, but it's still got nice deep tread there. It'll probably take you a month or 2 to get used to it before you really start hammering on it. Front tire definitely will need done after this year. It's kind of right at that point. I've been using the back brakes more lately to try and get a little more life out of that front tire. But that's about it. I'll show you the helmet. So it's a matte finish carbon fiber. It's got an adjustable vent on the front and top. It also has a black visor, which it's completely blacked out. It's no good for night riding. And if you end up out somewhere and you have to ride home in the dark, you have to ride with your black visor open. So as good as it looks, I put the clear on and I just use sunglasses. But that's pretty much it. It runs awesome. I haven't had any troubles at all. It's never even had a hiccup other than scaring the shit out of me, which it has done several times. Even at like half throttle, if you're crossing lanes, the painted lines at half throttle are enough for it to go squirrely. Sand, gravel, anything like that, like this is a crap load of power, so you really got to be careful. Like I said, I don't use traction control. I try to just use common sense and throttle control. But when you start out, you might want traction control on. It's smooth. You know, it's not like it's a scary bike and it's going to jump out from under you or anything. Like, you can calmly ride it as long as you've ridden a bike. You should be good. So that's about it. If you have any other questions, you know how to get a hold of me.